podcast is back. As always, you have Jake Mendel, you have Topher Cochran, and I have a hero in the room with us, a host of the Around the NFL podcast, Gregg Rosenthal. You can follow him on Twitter at Gregg Rosenthal, and that's Greg. There's 3 G's in that. So, Greg, I want to start there for a second. I looked up other famous Greggs, and I got Greg Popovich and Greg Williams and you. Which one do you think is going to have the best career when it's all said and done?
Yeah, because that triple G, the G really ends it. There's no Gregory. I mean, Popovich got a pretty good lead. I'm going to have to give him the edge as like a better person and a better career, but I'm definitely going to have a better career and I'm a better person than Greg Williams. So I'm right in the middle.
Yeah, you don't want to be associated with the bounty hunter.
No. Although he did get the Saints championship in 2009, which was one of my favorite Super Bowls I've been to. So I do like him for that.
Okay.
But with that, though, the one thing that you have on Greg Popovich is you're the pride of your hometown. You are the pride of Wilbraham, Mass. So the first time you heard that, what was that like?
I don't know that. I'm trying to think of other people that are from Wilbraham. There was an astronaut, I think Janice Voss, who once came to our high school to talk. She went to space. That seems more impressive than like going to like an online football site. But I'll take whatever I can get. Wilbraham doesn't get a lot of pop. It is the home of Friendly's ice cream though, so that's pretty strong. I would say that Friendly's has made a bigger impact in the world than I have.
Hey, Gwen Stefani's first job was actually at a Friendly's. That's like my one Jeopardy question for the night.
Wow, it was like my third job. Where are you? You're from Western Mass? Where in Western Mass?
I'm from Pittsfield, Mass. So like my big thing is my like humble brag, quote unquote, is that I went to the same high school as Elizabeth Banks from like Scrubs, Wet Hot American Summer. So that's like my big like flag. So when you're in LA now, you've been all over the place. How do you describe Wilbraham and even just like Western Mass when someone asks you where you're from?
That's a great question. By the way, I used to do like our like sectionals for cross country were in Pittsfield. So I also played some tennis in Pittsfield. So that's my knowledge there. But how do I describe it? I don't know. No one really asks or cares. They just assume that you're from Boston if you're from Massachusetts.
Boston's one big state.
Most people, it's like, yeah, it's hard to explain to them. And I always say Western Massachusetts. I don't say Wilbraham because even that confuses them. Like, and if they really care or want to get specific, like Springfield, like I'm right near there, or Amherst. That's about it.
Yeah, when I was listening to the Around the NFL podcast last week, and you guys were giving Springfield some hate. So, and just you kind of like you said, you clumped all of Western Mass into Springfield. So, how have you ever had to listen to people talk about how gorgeous fall is in Western Mass? And if so, how unbearable is it for you?
Well, I mean, it is quite beautiful in Western Mass. Yes, but as a kid, it was unbearable because my parents would always say that, and I was definitely like a Western Mass kid that kind of wanted to get out and go and see the world. There was a lot of apple farms. I was about 10 minutes from Springfield, but Wilbraham, there's a lot of like apple farms. My best friend had a turkey farm. So I was ready to get out. But it is beautiful. I got to give it some props. I don't really miss the seasons or anything, but it's nice. It's a positive. You gotta talk about your strengths.
That's true. So
Greg, what's it like working with Anthony Jeselnik? Because he's a super dry man. He's known for those tweets that he would always post after a tragic event, and his stand-up is actually really good. So I like to stand up. But what's it like working with him?
Well, we've been best friends basically since college, so it's a trip working with him because it's like we're getting paid now through Anthony, essentially, hooking up this deal at Comedy Central with the podcast for our podcast at Jeselnik and Rosenthal Vanity Project. Like it kind of blows my mind because I just think back to college when I used to be almost as funny as him, and we were just in our apartments like getting messed up and watching sports and TV, and now we're like getting paid to do the same bullshitting that we did back then.
So was it hard for you to keep a straight face? I just checked, it's not your pinned tweet anymore, but it was that picture. You were in a robe flipping, I think, pancakes, and you was just sitting there, and you just had like the most confident face on. How many like shots did that take you to actually nail that? Because it's like a pretty ridiculous situation.
It's a beautiful robe, by the way.
It's thank you very much, and I kept it. They let me keep the jewelry. I'm wearing like a dog tag. There is a special thing that setup is calling out, but I was promised not to like willingly give that away, so I won't. But you could maybe figure it out. But it took a lot of shots. I was terrible at it. It was incredible that Comedy Central spent a decent amount of money on a studio and a photographer and everything to set it up, and it was very painful to go through like the 130 shots or whatever the hell they took of it and try to find like 2 or 3 good ones, that was all there was basically, but at least there was 2 or 3.
So let's go to like football a little bit. Being that this is a Dolphins podcast, the Dolphin fan world has kind of the sky has fallen, as we would say. They went to New England, they got their throats ripped out of them, but how many teams could actually go in New England and actually defeat the Patriots with a losing record?
It's a good question. I thought the Patriots were pretty ripe to be given a good game by the Dolphins last.
We thought that too.
I'm sure you did. It was kind of a fluky game. Defensively, the Patriots came out really strong, and I think they were going to end up winning that game for them regardless. But the points that the Patriots piled up were kind of random. I think if you replayed that game a bunch of times, it would not end up in a Patriots blowout that often. I'm still waiting and see how turned around this Patriots team is. I'm not sure where the Dolphins will go, but I do think like if the Dolphins could somehow get to 11 wins, that might be enough to tie for the lead in the AFC East this year. We've seen a 10 or 11. I don't think this is a 14-2, obviously, or even like a 12-4 type of Patriots team by any means.
Mm-hmm. And kind of to sit on that for a second, I mean, Dan Marino had his 8-8 season. So did Favre. I mean, Peyton early on. The one thing I noticed about you when you talk about the Patriots, especially on the podcast, you're not like especially being in Western Mass, all I deal with is cocky Patriots fans, but you're more of a confident, you are kind of aware of things might not go right. So even with that in mind, how great is it to know that you instantly have like 11 wins in the bag every single year?
I don't feel, I mean, it's been great. When they won the Super Bowl after the 2014 season, I remember saying on the podcast, just, look, I'm good now. Like, that's what I wanted. I wanted that cherry on top of the Sunday. I wanted to get like the 4th title for Belichick. Everything that's happened since, for the most part, has been great, including another one. So I really do try to keep the perspective that, we've all hit the jackpot, especially if you grew up as a Patriots fan, when Dick McPherson and Rod Rust were coaching the team, and like they had a 6-win season that seemed like it was a Cinderella year that was amazing. And so to have that, I have the perspective, like we hit the lottery. You could have played out my life like, 20 different times, and you're not going to get like the greatest, dynasty in NFL history too often. So I'm trying not to be greedy, and then that all goes away like the second the game starts. And then of course you're just as pissed off and disappointed if they lose as basically anyone.
No doubt.
Well, the thing is, you're excited 11 times, at least 11 times out of the year when us in Miami were miserable. Probably what, Jake? How many weeks are we miserable?
Well,
even if we win?
Why do you have a Dolphins podcast in Western Mass?
Well, that's Jake. I live in South Florida, so I'm caught up in it. Jake's a whole other animal that I still don't understand why, being a Dolphin fan, why you live in Massachusetts.
You kind of mentioned it where, there was all the 6-win seasons. So my dad grew up a Dolphins fan, and he wanted to share that great experience of Dan Marino, the undefeated season, with a son. So I was born in 1994, so I basically became a Dolphins fan, let's say like 2001. And it has been a living hell ever since, because I just kind of followed him.
Thank you, Tom.
It's a big decision. I live out in Los Angeles, and I don't really foresee living in Massachusetts ever again. It's cold. Like my parents and my brother live there, and so visiting them, I can get my fill of it.
Mhm.
And so knowing that I'm probably never going to live there ever again, it's like, do I make my kids a Patriots fan? My daughter's 7, my son's 3. He seems to be gravitating. She's not, but my philosophy, I'm not going to push it on them. Like if the Rams are their local team and they start to like the Rams, like I don't know, because they missed it. They missed the window. It's no, as a Dolphins fan, it's no fun to be the fan of the franchise that used to be amazing and now is just kind of disappointing.
I went through high school wearing Brian Hartline jerseys. I had 2 different Brian Hartline jerseys that I would wear, and I'd be like, yeah, Chad Henney's gonna throw for 3 touchdowns on Monday Night Football and still get demolished by Tom Brady. It was definitely not a fun experience. But that's all you need, just 1-2 visits a year. What about the beautiful leaves, Greg? You gotta come see the leaves.
The leaves.
I'm not yet. The leaves, like as a kid, that never really made a huge impression on me. Yeah, I see it a little more now, but people are really into like the season. Fall is definitely nice, but it just means that winter is coming. And there's the one thing you realize. I went to school in New Orleans, which is also warm, and then now LA. It's like you realize like that's a choice. You're choosing to live in that winter.
Life choices.
You don't have to make that choice. Like I choose not to. I choose not to.
But Greg, you got to remember the Instagram pictures you can get. You cannot forget about them. But
that would be really annoying. I can't even imagine.
Oh, dude, it's freaking brutal. I'm getting out of here as soon as I can. But to kind of go back to the Dolphins-Patriots game, you mentioned how you play that game 15 times, and that's probably not the outcome we're going to see. But do you think Belichick really exposed some huge flaws for the Dolphins, or do you think it was just more of the evil genius being, the evil genius?
No, it's such a game plan league. You saw it the week before with the Lions totally flummoxing Tom Brady, that in any given week you can have the total right approach and get the ball rolling the right way, very much like the Dolphins did to the Patriots last December. I kind of laughed because so many people this week were like, well, of course, Belichick can out-coach Adam Gase, and, they just have the Dolphins number. And as you guys know, like, no, not really. The Dolphins are the one team in the division that's beaten them
give Brady
a ton
nightmares.
of times. Right, a ton of times. Usually almost always in Miami. But just recently, the end of last year, which, was a beatdown. So any given week it can change, but I do wonder like how are the Dolphins consistently going to generate offense, and I'm still not totally sure about that because the way they've done it this year has been a very small margin for error to do over 16 games.
I agree. Well, and right before Topher asked a question, I just got to throw in, I did have a Jay Cutler jersey for all of last season, and it is now hanging on my wall just because that's kind of where I am as a Dolphins fan.
Wow, no Dolphins fans did that, did they? I mean, I'm one of the only people that I know that has like supported Jay Cutler throughout, and I feel like
he bought one.
Right, I feel like I've been proven right with his reality show Superstardom that he was the guy worth rooting for. But yeah, buying a jersey when you know he's going to be on the team 1 year is just like burning money.
I just thought it'd be like something where I can look at it in 5 years and be like, wow, we were miserable back then and we still are. Like kind of like a Dante Culpepper or something like that. It's just to remind you of the bad times.
That's a weird way to view fandom. Try to avoid.
So you were discussing about how the Dolphins basically like their game plan. I don't know how much you saw the Raiders game or the Jets game or even the Titans game, but there were moments in that game where like the offenses just looked completely like inept. They couldn't move the ball. And then they go against New England, and all those flaws are just now magnified. And it kind of those flaws kind of fit that projection as going like 3-13 that they were, that a lot of media guys picked. What was your projection about the Dolphins before the season, and has it even changed at all, or has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse?
No, they look exactly like I thought. I actually wrote about them. I don't think I even had to predict a record in any forum, but in general, I thought they'd be a 7-8 win type of team. Mm-hmm. And my general line on them was that actually their roster was solid. that they were definitely the second best team in the division, that they're a rare team, that I didn't see like huge weaknesses if you look position group by position group, but they just don't have like the top line talent. You know, they don't have the top 5 to 10 players at a given position in many places. So they looked almost like, and the way they played this year has borne that out. They've been very balanced. They've been fine. They're kind of a deep, solid team without nearly enough firepower. And with a team like that, you better have like a great difference-making coach, probably on both sides of the ball, or else you're just going to end up 8 or 9 wins. I thought they were way too good, though, to be like a 4 or 5 win team. I think there's too many good players.
No doubt. And the way we kind of described it so far is, I don't know how much baseball you watch, but this offense is like Adam Dunn. They're either going to strike out on 3 pitches, they have like the lowest amount of plays per drive, or they'll just hit the home run and make it look like the easiest thing in the world. But we're on to Cincinnati.
He gets like, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, we're on to Cincinnati, and do you think they could be more than that, like a 220 hitter who's, still somehow hits 35 home runs?
I don't think. Yes, I do. I think they need to use the baseball analogy. They need to hit some more singles and
doubles.
Just get on base and hope for the best a little more, because you're right. The first 2 games, it's like they're counting on Tannehill to hit the couple deep shots that they take, and he did a pretty good job of that, I would say, especially in weeks 2 and 3.
They caught us off guard.
Right, and the trick plays. I'm annoyed by the Dolphins. It's the first. I literally dropped the phone on a podcast. So that's pretty exciting stuff that you got to be part of history right there. I was gonna say, like, I'm sick of the Dolphins fans. It's very yeah, it's all good. It's a prickly fan base when you point out that, like, Tannehill, like, half of his yardage and touchdowns are from like jet sweeps where he just throws the ball 1 foot. They love to point out that Tannehill's stats are like better than Joe Montana's stats back in 1995 or something.
Dan Marino. It's Dan Marino. Get it right.
That's the new one, yeah.
Dan Marino. That was it.
It's absolutely horrible. You're right, though.
If you're playing Madden and you need a quarterback for your dynasty, because the Bengals have Andy Dalton, the Dolphins have Tannehill, and they're kind of both stuck on this blah trajectory of just they're the guy, but if there's someone else available, they should get him. Who would you rather have, Dalton or Tannehill?
Wow. I was such a Tannehill guy early on. I had this like season-long project his rookie year, tracking all the rookies that year. So I watched like the coaches tape of his entire class throughout the year, and I came out of that year thinking, like, this guy is like the sleeper of this group. He's so underrated. He's so athletic. He's gonna pick up like the finer points of the position as he goes, and he's such a great runner. And like, for him to do what he did as a rookie, I thought was really impressive. But you haven't like seen a ton of development, and I think Adam Gase is a really good play caller, and I think he'll have a solid season this year. But you haven't seen the next step, and there is something about playing quarterback that's like a feel of the position that I don't know if he has it that well. Like Patrick Mahomes, that's one thing that's underrated, I think, about him. He has such a great natural feel of what to do and when to do it, and Tannehill seems to be like doing what the coaches tell him. Dalton is very similar in that way. I would probably take Tannehill to answer your question, because I do think there's a little bit more upside, but they're very similar, I think, in terms of their strengths and weaknesses. And Dalton's definitely playing better right now, there's no doubt.
Exactly. When we looked at Tannehill early on, there were some things that really stood out. The offense used go every time they were passing the ball, go every time they're running it. And in fact, Mike Sherman is actually coaching in Western Mass right now as some random, I think it's some like prep school or something. So you just, like I said, you cannot escape. Yep. He was at least a couple years ago, and I'm just still
There's an
riding on
article
that
out on that.
But
do you guys know who Charlie Casserly is?
Yes.
Sir. He, former Redskins GM, won the Super Bowl with them. I think he in the front office. He works here at NFL Network. he once coached at my high school, Minnetonka Regional. I don't know if you're familiar with that. And at Springfield College, he coached as well. So, don't let people tell you that Western Mass doesn't have a fine football tradition. Like, a lot of superstars come out of there.
Mike Tannenbaum's first job was in Pittsfield. He was an intern at Wacona Park. So we could just fly these out left and right. Yeah. But
it's
last
it's
Dolphins
sad
question.
that the best that we have are mid-level general managers. We can't come up with any players at all.
Western Mass, we're consistently average, and I think that we'll just leave it at that. Last Dolphins question we have for you. What do you make of the routine of midseason player cuts that Adam Gase seems to love? First year it was 3 offensive linemen. Last year it was trading Ajayi. This year it's Jordan Phillips. Second round pick just gone. Do you see that often in the NFL where it's just someone's so sick of these players that are such an important piece of their offense they're just getting rid of them?
No, you don't. The Patriots are Patriots are certainly one team that has made a living doing that over the years. I think that's a good quality to get rid of people that you think are mistakes. You just hope it's not an emotional decision. Adam Gase seems like a really tightly wound guy.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a chance to talk to him a little bit, and then you can just see it in the press conference where you can just imagine that these players are driving him batshit crazy.
Bonkers.
Right, and that you have to get them off the team. The one real concern though in this whole situation is you do wonder a little bit how aligned the front office and Gase are. So are these players that he wanted to get rid of before and the front office wouldn't do it and he finally gets his way, or vice versa? You don't really know. But I don't think any of the moves have hurt him. They took a lot of grief for the Ajayi move, and Kenyon Drake to me is just as good a player. They just need to use him more.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to some quick NFL stuff. Have we seen so many offensive innovators in this league? I feel like we've seen a ton right now with McVay, Nagy, Peterson, even Reed, who's been around forever. But what he's doing with Pat Mahomes is ridiculous. And we'll even throw in Adam Gase for giggles.
Sure, why not? Reed's kind of the grandfather. He's kind of the key to it all, the godfather rather, of a lot of this. His coaching tree is kind of taking over the league, even different offshoots of it. Even guys like McVay or Kyle Shanahan are, if you look at kind of where they came from, it's impacted from the Reed coaching tree. I think the key is a lot of them are really going crazier in terms of the college concepts that they're taking from the college game, and it's sort of overdue. That in the college game, everything is so spread, everything is so pass heavy and so horizontal, and you're now seeing that work at the NFL. A lot of the stuff that people thought were gimmicky in the NFL 5 years ago, it's that's what the Bears and the Chiefs are using to light up 40 points a week.
Mm-hmm. Through 4 games, what NFL team are you really impressed with? I mean, I know people expect the Chiefs to be pretty good, but what are some teams that you're just surprised by? Maybe one good team and one bad team.
The Titans, for sure, as a surprisingly good team, especially after last week. It really changed the way I looked at him, because there's another guy, Matt LaFleur, who's the coordinator, came from the Rams a year ago, and if Mariota can play like that offensively, they have showed a ton of toughness. The way that they've won games, their defense is definitely hard to handle, and if you just go through the types of games, they won a game running the Wildcat with Blaine Gabbert as their quarterback. They won a game in Jacksonville 9-6. They kind of own the Jaguars, and then to come back from 17-3 against the Eagles is pretty awesome. The flip side, I would say the Steelers. Mm-hmm. They're the team that's gotten out slow, along with the Vikings, but especially the Steelers are the team that I kind of don't. I think this is going to be what they are. I think they're going to drive everyone crazy all year and miss the playoffs. I mean, I don't think they'll be a 5-win team, but I think they could easily be a 7-8-1 team or an 8-7-1 team, and you do wonder if the Rooney family would think about making a change at head coach if that happened.
No doubt. So, final question. I'm a huge fan of the Round NFL podcast, except when the Dolphins lose, because I just want to ignore football. So, on a scale of 1 to 10,
and we tend to bury the Dolphins. You know how not to cut you off, but you know how fans are always oh, you hate our team,
It's for a reason.
Yeah, I think for Dolphins fans, they do tend to get a tough end of it. Probably because there's two AFC East fans in the room, and just they've been a boring team. I wouldn't say anyone hates them, but they tend to get it a little worse than other teams. So I do apologize for that.
Oh, no worries.
Accepted.
I remember
Accepted.
someone brought it up on the show a couple weeks ago, just how Dolphin fans can be the worst, and we're right there with you. We hope we've done enough to show that we're all not terrible.
Ooh.
But last
Yeah,
question.
that's right. It's really Chris Wesseling you're talking about, who loves to battle against different fan bases. So every year, a handful of them get on his radar, and yeah, the Dolphins are definitely there
Always
right now.
in the radar.
Oh God, they're vultures. On a scale of 1 to 10, how uncomfortable does it make you when Dan calls himself Daddy? Because I always cringe just a little bit.
I'm gonna go 4. Uncomfortable would be the wrong word. It's just a curious choice to go third person daddy in a room full of other grown men, or even just in general. I try not to use the third person and call myself daddy, even around my kids. It's kind of a weird thing.
That's fair. Gregg, thank you so much for coming and joining us. I hope the Patriots lose tonight. I'm sorry, but thank you so much. I hope you had some fun.
Thank you, Greg.
I hope that they, win, and I hope that other Dolphins fans I run into are as delightful and have as a great a Western Mass tradition as this podcast. Because if you were all like that, I don't think Dolphins fans would be annoying the rest of the world.
We'd be the St. Louis Cardinals. But like I said, thank you so much, Gregg. I hope you have a great night.
I'll see you guys. Thanks.
Take care.
Have a wonderful night.
Topher, I gotta say that interview was a lot of fun. That was, if we're, like I said on the Twitter feed, if we're Pat Riley, we just landed our first whale, and I think it was a pretty big success.
It was good. He was very entertaining. A lot of knowledge, and he was, going back and forth with the Dolphins, even though you guys had like this weird, obvious love affair with Massachusetts, and it totally freaked me out.
I don't know if it's a love affair as much as it is just like when you're stuck somewhere, and
yeah,
it's like being a Dolphins fan. You're just stuck, and you got to embrace it. It's
definitely embraced.
We're on to Cincinnati, though, Topher. How are we feeling about the game this weekend?
Pessimistic. I'm not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
Cam Wake's not playing. I mean, he's not practicing. I don't want to say he's not playing. He's not practicing. Devontae hasn't came back yet. I think we're just hoping right now at this point that Rashad Jones plays.
He is. It is confirmed. I don't know if you saw the In the Hunt tweet, but it was a presidential alert that.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Thank you, President Mendel, for letting all of us know. But yeah, I'm just the Dolphins. I mean, it's one of those weird things where we can convince ourselves right now that the Dolphins have the DBs to match up with AJ Green, Tyler Boyd, and maybe Tyler Boyd, and that's about it. And then we don't know if Bernard's going to play, but Mixon might be back. So it comes down to me is, can the Dolphins offense get going? And what I mean by get going, can they have a drive longer than 20 yards?
Sustain some plays, because I think the one thing that is really stuck with me from our last show is when you mentioned how the Dolphins on fourth down, average like 4.3 yards a play, and which is just 4.3 plays per drive. See, it scrambles in my head so much I can't even explain it.
Especially on the road, it's just that's what I want. I just want to see a sustained drive, maybe end in a field goal, maybe.
Field goal would no. We always want 7. We always want 6.
You always want 6 or 7, 6, 7, and even 8. But at this point, it's let's just get a drive going and just get some consistent points on the board. Mm-hmm. Because before you know it, if you keep doing it that way, with every you score 3 touchdowns with 2 field goals, you're probably going to win the game. But the offensive line's got to come out and they got to block. Is Drake going to get more carries?
God, I hope so. I mean, 3 carries.
He's pissed. He's legit mad, and he has the right to be mad.
Exactly, but he did on those runs. He was not hitting holes. He looked very soft. So I don't know if it's just Gase's short leash instead of just telling a player hey, when you see a hole, you got to hit it. You can't be stutter step and things like that. If you see the hole, you got to go. But I mean, like I mentioned, there's none of the swing passes from we've seen in the past. Just not throwing him the ball at all, throwing him the ball in space. That's what made him better than Ajayi, is where Kenyon Drake can catch the ball out of the backfield, and we didn't see any of that. Grank 4 played more snaps than him. It's just not something you want to see. Gore's great, but Kenyon Drake should be a big part of this offense.
And are we going to finally see, like, Mike Gesicki make a play?
God, I hope so. Where is he?
It's so aggravating. He's getting playing time. It's not like – and the weird thing is they're using him as a blocker when, like, that's clearly not his strength. And let's just – I don't know, man. It's so damn frustrating. This is what happens when you play New England. They suck your soul, and you're sitting here, like, just hoping for things to take place on Sunday after – in Cincinnati. Not at home, but, like, in Cincinnati.
Exactly. I mean, Gregg did a pretty good job of kind of walking us off the cliff a little bit, thinking that their 10, 11 wins isn't really out of the realm of possibilities for the Dolphins. I mean, I don't know if he said that, they're definitely going to do it, because that I don't think anyone expects that. But this team does still have potential. They still have the best record in the AFC. I mean, the matchup against Cincy, I kind of like it. But before we get into our predictions, the last thing I kind of want to ask you about is Jordan Phillips. Like, Sutton was, I don't know.
Oh, my God.
If you've been following the show for a while, Sutton called this, like, at the beginning of training camp. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and then he had the nerve to, like, let us know on a Thursday morning.
Yeah. Well,
like, I mean, he had the nerve. Hey, by the way, I got it right. I was just a month late.
Well, I'd wave that flag either way. Don't you worry about that. Yeah, you always, every time you can brag, you got it. It's just.
Oh, I don't blame him. But, I mean, they have the guys. They have, Taylor, who has looked better. And we know what Jordan Phillips is. And just like Gregg said, like, if you either have your guys or you don't. And what's the point of keeping them if you don't want them?
Exactly.
And this was the case with Jordan Phillips. Is he's an inconsistent guy. And what's the point of having this guy? We know the act, and he hasn't changed. On top of it, if your defensive line coach doesn't like coaching him and is annoyed at him, why have him on your team when his deal is going to expire at the end of the year?
Exactly. And I think the defensive line isn't necessarily, like,
it's just weird.
I don't know how I could say this, but you don't need to. We saw with Sue, and then what we've seen out of guys like Taylor and Gottschall. You don't have to break the bank for. This is a position where you can. I don't want to say pick guys up the street, but you don't need top tier guys for it to be a successful.
You just need professionals. That's all you need.
You need to be people who are, like, thinking on their feet. So with that, Topher, let me hear your game prediction.
I'm gonna go 20. Actually, no. Cincy has scored 30 points 3 of the last 4 games. I'm gonna go Cincinnati, keep it up with their average 34, and Miami 17.
You're thinking Miami scores 17. I think for the first time this year, you mentioned it before the show, I think we can't have faith in Miami until they show us that they can do something. So I'm going to agree with on the road, too. I'm going to say like a 31-10, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Miami's offense just clicks, but they haven't been able to sustain anything, and especially if Parker doesn't play, they're not going to have anyone to bail them out on that offense. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and you don't know what you're going to get from the running game, the offensive line, penalties, which are included in that offensive line. Like, we don't know. And this has the makeup of maybe, like, AJ Green exploding or, Joe Mixon coming back and wreaking havoc on him.
Tyler Boyd's also been talking some smack. I don't know if you saw that too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Oh, yeah. He's basically kind of like, just disrespected Minka.
How dare he? How
dare he?
But Topher, this show was a lot of fun.
It was one of our best ones.
Topher, fins up.
Fins up.